And here it is, our legacy. Dad's voice echoed through the living room like a proud school principal announcing an award. All heads turned to the wall he pointed at. There, in glistening paint and varnish, stretched a massive, custom-painted family tree, its branches blooming with 112 names. Great-grandparents, aunts, uncles, nieces, nephews, cousins twice removed. Everyone was there. Everyone except me. My name, the daughter who had paid for the catering, flown in from across the country, and printed their custom gold and silver invitations, was nowhere on the tree. I didn't say a word. Not when my brother raised a toast. Not when Mom said, "Isn't it beautiful? Everyone who matters is here." Not even when I caught my youngest cousin mouthing, "Wait, where's Julia?" I just smiled, poured myself a drink, and left before dessert. My name is Julia Blake, and from wherever you're watching this, stay with me. Because have you ever been erased by your own family while standing in the same room? Have you ever tasted betrayal so subtle, so cold, that it made your hands tremble, not from anger, but from clarity? 3 days later, a clip surfaced online. Just 27 seconds. But it was enough to throw the entire perfect family into chaos. It started like this. Mom standing next to the mural, gesturing proudly. Dad chiming in with, "We finally have a record of the whole family, no one forgotten." Then my sister's voice. "We double-checked everything. Triple-checked. It's flawless." And then, off-screen, faint but undeniable, the voice of the mural artist. "Wait, who's Julia? Wasn't I told not to include that name?" Pause. Nervous laughter. Then my sister's voice again. "Oh, her? She lives far away. We weren't sure she'd even come." Plus, long story. The clip ended, but not before someone on TikTok added text across the screen. POV, your whole family erases you from history in front of a live audience. Within hours, it had 600,000 views. By that night, it passed 2 million. I didn't leak the video, but I knew exactly who did. Because when you spend your life being invisible, you learn how to make quiet allies. The muralist's niece, a media student, had been filming her uncle for a class project. She messaged me privately. I didn't know it would go viral, but I also didn't know families could be that cold. I thanked her, then got to work. Not on revenge. On exposure. Because this wasn't about getting even. It was about getting visible. That night, as my sister's phone blew up with texts and Mom desperately tried to message me to explain, I sat on my hotel bed, sipping tea, scrolling through thousands of comments. Why would they erase their own daughter? I hope she builds a bigger tree, one that doesn't rot at the root. This is why you never trust people who pretend blood means loyalty. For once, I was the story, not the footnote, not the plus one. And my silence? It was no longer their protection. It was their undoing. The morning after the clip went viral, I woke up to a flurry of emails, missed calls, and one hilariously desperate group text. "Mom, can we please talk about this like a family? SS, Emily, this is being taken way out of context. You're making us look bad. Dad, please don't do anything rash. You know how fragile your mother is." Fragile? The same mother who once told me, "You're so sensitive. No wonder you don't have your own family yet." That line used to break me. Now it just made me sigh. I muted the thread. Then I opened my laptop and pressed publish on the blog post I'd spent the night writing. Title: The Family Tree That Forgot Its Gardener. I wrote about what it felt like to watch your name disappear, not from a slip-up, but by design. I included details they thought I'd never share. The birthday they skipped because Emily had a brunch date. The time I flew home to care for Dad post-surgery and slept on the floor while my cousins took the guest room. The $11,200 I'd wired last Christmas to help cover the house upgrade, now clearly spent on the mural. This wasn't a misunderstanding, I wrote. It was the culmination of years of quiet dismissal. But I'm not angry. I'm just done. By noon, the post had been shared over 14,000 times. A verified account reposted it with a caption. "This is what emotional exile looks like." But here's where it gets interesting. While my parents tried to backpedal privately, sending me half-hearted emails about how we thought you wouldn't mind, and the artist was on a deadline. Emily made a mistake. She posted a Notes app apology. One of those black text on white image, PR-style disasters. It read, "I never meant to hurt anyone. Family is complicated. I hope we can all move forward and celebrate our parents, not tear each other down." Comments were brutal. "Girl, you erased your sister from a wall. Not a typo. A choice. You're not the victim. You're the editor of someone else's story. Imagine stealing $11,000 from your sister and calling her complicated." Within 24 hours, she disabled comments. Within 48, she deleted her account entirely. And while my family spun in panic, trying to put out the fire with passive-aggressive pity, something else happened. A woman named Denise emailed me. She was an editor at Roots and Grace, a prominent magazine dedicated to women reclaiming their voice through storytelling. She offered me a feature article and podcast guest spot. What you wrote, that wasn't just cathartic. It was a cultural moment. And still, I hadn't said a word to my family. No calls. No emails. No half-truths to keep the peace. Just silence. But this time, silence wasn't fear. It was power. I took a walk that night. Breezy. Stars out. I passed a shop window and saw a little girl standing on tiptoe, tracing a tree on display. Painted leaves. Hand-drawn names. Her mother kneeled beside her and whispered, "That's your name, sweetie. You're right here." I paused. Smiled. Because that little girl would grow up knowing she belonged. Not like me. But maybe because of women like me. Women who turned pain into paper and paper into proof. Proof that being left off the tree doesn't mean you stop growing. Sometimes it just means you start blooming on your own. The first apology letter came in a soft pink envelope with gold trim. It was from my mother. She must have thought sending it by mail made it more heartfelt, like real paper and fancy cursive would make up for years of casual cruelty. The handwriting looked rushed. Forced. Inside it read, "Julia, I don't know what to say except, I'm sorry. I had no idea this would blow up the way it did. We never meant to hurt you, truly. The mural was just meant to celebrate our family. Please come home and let's talk. Love, Mom." It wasn't the worst apology I'd ever received, but it was the most hollow. Because she didn't say she forgot me. She said she didn't expect anyone to notice. A day later, Dad called. Left a voicemail. "I just want to say, sorry, sweetheart. This whole thing's gotten out of hand. Your mother's not sleeping. Emily's beside herself. Maybe you can help calm this thing down, huh?" There it was again. They weren't sorry for what they did. They were sorry it mattered. They were sorry it caught up with them. The final straw? A family group chat I didn't know still existed. Someone sent a blurry photo of the mural, with my name added to a tiny branch off the side in thin, rushed handwriting. Barely visible. A message followed. "Uncle Marvin, there we go. All fixed. Let's move forward. Family's sparkling heart deciduous tree." I laughed out loud, like I was a stain they had to scrub in, like I should be grateful they penciled me back in. They didn't want to include me. They just didn't want to be called out anymore. So I replied in the one place that still burned their nerves, the internet. I posted a photo of a different tree. A real tree, one I had planted in the garden of a local women's shelter my foundation supported. I just funded a complete renovation, 6 bedrooms, childcare support, job training, trauma therapy. I captioned it, "Here's my family tree. Every woman who rebuilt herself without the people who broke her. Roots deepened by pain. Branches stretched by grace." Over 1.2 million likes in 24 hours. Meanwhile, my sister tried to reach out. She sent a voice memo. She sounded like someone trying to cry on cue. "Jules, come on, you know I didn't mean to erase you. I just thought, you were always off doing your own thing. You left the family. We didn't think you'd even notice the mural." That line, "You left the family." It rang like a bell in my head. No, Emily. I didn't leave the family. You all locked the door and painted over my name. That night, I sat in my new apartment, high-rise, quiet, full of light and books and things I chose. I scrolled through emails from young women. Dozens of them, each sharing their own mural story. My brother got the inheritance. I got the silence. My mother introduced me as a friend of the family at her gala. I know exactly what it feels like to be erased while standing right there. I read every single one, and I replied to most. Because this wasn't just my story anymore. This was a movement, and I was no longer the forgotten daughter. I was the mirror, the one they couldn't unsee. A week after the storm started, my sister finally showed up unannounced. I was hosting a brunch event for a women's leadership circle at a downtown loft. The energy was warm, powerful, electric. Women clinked glasses, shared hard-won wisdom, passed cards, and held each other's gaze without apology. And in walks Emily, crisp blazer, oversized sunglasses, carrying guilt like it was the latest designer bag. She looked around awkwardly. She didn't fit in, not here. Not anymore. When she spotted me near the spiral staircase, she walked over slowly, like a little girl who had just realized the playground wasn't hers. Can we talk? I didn't flinch. I didn't smile. I said, sure. 5 minutes. Public space. We sat near the terrace. People gave us space, but eyes lingered. She leaned in. I'm sorry, she whispered. Really? I know I messed up. The mural, it was stupid. And cruel. I didn't think. No. I cut her off. You did think. You made a decision. A series of them. I'm not angry anymore, Emily. I'm just aware. She blinked. You're really not going to let this go, are you? I almost laughed. I already let go. I let go of the version of myself that waited for a seat. That begged for acknowledgement. That whispered thanks for scraps. You're not the villain, Emily. But I'm not your cleanup crew either. She stared, waiting for some thread of softness. But I was no longer the woman she could uninvite, overwrite, or erase. I was the author now. 2 days later, the real panic began. Not online, not emotional, but legal. The mural clip had triggered more than comments. It caught the attention of a company I once consulted for, a legacy brand that Emily's fiancé had recently signed a $7.2 million contract with. They contacted me quietly. We were unaware of your relation, they said. Given recent public discourse, well, we'd like to revisit the agreement. It took one phone call. One. I didn't ask them to cancel. I just explained how values matter and how certain names reflect poorly on legacy. They terminated the contract within 48 hours. The fallout? Oh, it was delicious. My phone stayed quiet, but mutual acquaintances filled the silence for me. Her fiancé's family furious. Wedding plans postponed. Her LinkedIn quietly edited from founder to consultant. Real estate listing pulled down. And then the voicemail from Dad. Julia. Please, please. What are you doing? This is family. You're taking things too far. You have to fix this. Fix what? Fix the story they built by burying me? Fix the empire I stopped propping up in silence? No, Dad. I'm not the fixer anymore. Instead, I did something unexpected. I posted a quiet update. A new mural, not painted on a wall, but designed on canvas. This one? It didn't list names. It showed roots turning into wings. And at the base, a silhouette of a girl, standing alone beneath a tree, then slowly rising. Family doesn't define you. Blood doesn't validate you. Actions do. And legacy isn't inherited, it's chosen. The post went viral again. But this time, the comments were filled with gratitude. I've never seen myself represented so clearly. You reminded me that I'm not crazy. I'm just excluded. Thank you for giving forgotten daughters a language. My sister didn't reach out again. She didn't need to. I'd already given her the final message, one she'd never forget. You cut me from the tree, but I grew into the forest. By now, people were talking, not just online, everywhere. At my parents' church, murmurs buzzed louder than the choir. At my father's workplace, one of his colleagues pulled him aside and said, "Is it true? You left your daughter off your family tree? The one who paid for your surgery." Even my aunt from Florida, who hadn't spoken to me in 4 years, sent me a half-hearted thinking of you text. But the message was clear. They didn't regret what they did. They regretted being seen for who they really were. That weekend, I got an unexpected visit. My Uncle Darren, my mom's older brother, showed up at my apartment building with a box in his hands and tears in his eyes. "I had to come in person," he said, "to give you this and to say I'm sorry." He looked down, ashamed. When I saw that wall at the anniversary, I knew. I knew what they'd done. But I didn't speak up. I thought, Julia's strong. She won't care. But that was cowardice. He handed me the box. Old. Heavy. Sealed with dusty tape. "It belonged to your grandmother. She asked me to keep it for you. She said it was for the one who remembered her stories, not just her recipes." Inside were handwritten journals, drawings, pressed flowers, a photo of me as a child, sitting in Grandma Irene's lap, listening as she told me stories about our ancestors, immigrants who arrived with nothing and built something from bare hands and backbones. She used to say, "You don't need a painted tree to know where you come from, just a heartbeat strong enough to carry it." The journals detailed our lineage, including me front and center with my birth date, my achievements, little anecdotes about how I used to braid her hair while she sipped tea. I wept, not because I was remembered, but because someone before all the betrayal saw me as enough. That same night, I got a message from a woman named Tessa. "Hey Julia, I'm a producer with her side media. We've followed your journey. We'd love to offer you a book deal and possible documentary rights. Let us know if you're open to a conversation." I sat there stunned. It was happening. My story, the one they tried to bury under gold trim and performative family dinners, was growing roots in the world. And while I moved forward, my sister spiraled. Her ex-fiancé's firm filed a lawsuit for breach of ethics tied to their contract cancellation. She posted cryptic stories about fake narratives and ungrateful siblings. But no one was listening anymore. The court of public opinion had ruled. And karma? Well, karma doesn't need a megaphone. It just needs a mirror. I made one last move. I bought ad space in a local art gallery. Hired a muralist. This one would be public. A living tree, painted on concrete. It would grow with each woman who added her name, every person who had ever been forgotten by their own blood. At the base of the mural, etched in gold, it read, "This tree doesn't forget its gardeners. Julia Blake." And underneath it, hundreds of names, none of them needing permission to belong. They hosted a healing dinner. That's what the invitation said. Sent via email. Designed like a holiday card, decorated with maple leaves and cursive fonts. Subject line, "Family means forgiveness." Location, Emily's condo. Yes, the one partly paid for with the money they stole from me. It read, "We want to make things right. Let's come together, talk things out. No cameras, no posts, just love." I stared at it for a full 5 minutes. Not because I was touched, because I was calculating. Because this was the first time they'd ever used the word right. And I had the perfect way to show them what that looked like. I RSVP'd yes. But I didn't go alone. I invited 3 women I'd mentored through my nonprofit. Women who had been cast out by their families, erased from wills, denied at dinner tables, told to shrink themselves to make others comfortable. They wore confidence, like armor. I wore a red blazer, sharp heels, and the gold locket my grandmother gave me, the one with the pressed violets inside. When we arrived, the room fell quiet. Emily's fiancé, the new one, stood to greet us, then faltered when he realized who I was. My parents smiled awkwardly. My father opened his arms for a hug I didn't return. "Julia," my mother said, "you look powerful." I smiled. That's accurate. Dinner began. They tried small talk. Talked about vacations, weddings, the madness of the media, and how people don't understand family complexities. Then, halfway through the second course, my father raised his glass. "Let's toast to second chances. To growth. To Julia for showing us a new kind of strength." Everyone clinked glasses. Except me. I stood up. "Before we toast, there's one more thing." I reached into my bag, pulled out a folder, and slid it across the table to my sister. "What's this?" she asked, already pale. An agreement. Terminating all intellectual and commercial use of my name in connection to the Blake family brand. That includes the mural, the memoir proposal Dad's been pitching, and the Forgotten Daughter comeback podcast Mom teased in her interview last week. Emily stammered. That was just an idea. Not anymore. You have 48 hours to sign, or I file for breach of privacy and unauthorized use of identity. My mom gasped. You wouldn't. I would. And I just did. Then I turned to the guests, the women I brought with me. This is Alana. Her parents sold her childhood home while she was away at college and told her she didn't need to come home anymore. This is Teresa. Her church community voted to excommunicate her for reporting an elder's abuse. And this is Rachel. Her brother took credit for the nonprofit she built, and her parents told her it was just business. I looked at the stunned room. You see, I didn't come here for closure. I brought evidence. Evidence that I was never the broken one. I just finally stopped bleeding for people who kept handing me knives. No one spoke after that. Not even my father. I sat back down, took a bite of dessert. It was lemon tart. My favorite. The irony made it sweeter. Delicious, I said. Almost as good as self-respect. The women beside me laughed. Across the table, I watched my family unravel without raising my voice. And when we stood to leave, I left behind a single note on a linen napkin, written in gold ink. This isn't revenge. This is remembering who I am and refusing to forget it again. The story should have ended there, at the dinner with the silence, the contract, the power shift. But legacies don't end with one bold moment. They continue, especially when the people who tried to erase you realize the world no longer protects their version of the truth. 2 weeks after the dinner, the mural came down. Quietly. No announcement. No apology. Just erased, like it had never existed. A cousin texted me a blurry photo of the blank wall with a message. They took the whole thing down. Guess it was too late to add you. I didn't reply. Because I wasn't waiting to be added anymore. I had already built something bigger. That same week, I walked into a press event hosted by her side media, the company that offered me the book deal. Cameras flashed. Questions echoed. But when I stepped on stage, I said nothing for a moment. Just stood there, tall, centered, unshakable. Then I began. This isn't about revenge. It's about recognition. For every daughter who sat at the kids' table until she built her own banquet. For every woman whose name was left off the list until she wrote her own. The room erupted in applause. And backstage, waiting to meet me, women holding journals, photo albums, printed emails from sisters who called them selfish, all of them teary-eyed, all of them seen for the first time. Meanwhile, my family tried to control the narrative. A local paper ran a feature on my father's company, once respected, now reeling from internal instability and public scrutiny. The headline said it all. When loyalty is a one-way street, a family's silent undoing. Emily, on the other hand, went dark online. No new posts. No brand collabs. Her new fiancé pulled out of a joint venture. And then my mother reached out again. A voice memo. Julia, I know I've said it before, but I truly mean it now. We messed up. I messed up. You didn't deserve what we did. Not then, not ever. I don't know how to fix it, but I'd love to talk. No pressure. Just if you ever feel like you can. There was something softer in her voice this time. Not performance. Just regret. Still, I didn't respond right away. Because this time, I didn't owe anyone immediacy. Instead, I focused on what I was building. We launched a new foundation. Branches Unwritten. A digital and physical archive for women who've been written out of their families' histories, legacies. We offered grants for memoirs. Created scholarships named after overlooked grandmothers. Commissioned artwork from survivors who reclaimed their place in the story. Our tagline? If they forget you, remember louder. One day, while cleaning out old boxes, I found my grandmother's locket again. Inside the photo of me on her lap, I noticed something I hadn't before. Her other hand, it was holding a pen. She wasn't just telling stories. She was writing them down, preserving me. It hit me like a quiet thunder. Even when they tried to bury me, she'd planted seeds in secret. So I could rise when the world was ready to see me. I put the locket around my neck, looked in the mirror, and smiled. Not because I'd won, but because I remembered who I was and never let them forget again. They held another family event. This time, my niece's birthday party. A big one. Rented hall, catered, princess theme. I wasn't invited. I saw the pictures on social media. My name wasn't tagged. My photo wasn't missing. I simply didn't exist to them anymore. And yet, that night, while scrolling through those images, something surprising happened. I didn't feel pain. I didn't feel rage. I felt done. The silence I once feared now felt like freedom. I poured a glass of wine, opened the final proof copy of my book, and sat by the fireplace. The dedication page? For the daughters who sat outside the circle and still found a way to shine. You were always the fire. They just couldn't hold your warmth. The next morning, her side media released the trailer. It opened with the mural going up. Then the voiceover. They tried to forget her, so she remembered louder. Then a beat. And me, walking toward the new public mural I commissioned, the one covered in names of women from all walks of life, written in silver and gold ink. And finally, the line that shook the internet. Legacy isn't what you inherit. It's what you survive and rebuild. The documentary aired a week later. By then, I had moved into a new home, a modest craftsman-style cottage just outside the city. There were no marble staircases, no gold-plated nameplates. Just quiet and peace. I had built it from scratch. My name was the only one on the deed. And the garden had a tree in the center. An oak sapling. Young, sturdy. At the base, I placed a single plaque. The family tree ends here, but the forest begins. The fallout came slowly. First, the text. Please call us. We miss you. You're making a mistake. Then came the spin. My father tried to do an interview, paint himself as a misunderstood patriarch. It didn't land. People had seen too much. He was forced to step down from his board. Donors pulled out. Emily posted a Bible quote about prodigal daughters returning. I just smiled, because I was never the prodigal one. I was the exiled queen who found her own land. The most unexpected message came from my mother. A letter. Handwritten. Julia, I'm not asking for a seat in your life again. I just want you to know, I see it now. All of it. The ways we failed you. The ways we made you doubt your own worth. I wish I had your courage. Love, Mom. I read it. Once. Then I folded it. Placed it inside my grandmother's old journal. Not out of hope. Out of history. Because some apologies don't need a reply. They just need a record. That evening, as the sun set behind my oak tree, I sat on the porch with a warm drink. No noise. No drama. No chase for validation. Just the wind. And the soft whisper of a life I had earned. Not handed to me. Not begged for. Built. And when a young girl from the nonprofit sent me a drawing of a tree with stars instead of leaves, I framed it. Because that's what I became. Not a name on someone else's wall, but the root, the trunk, and the sky above it all.